Hey guys, my name's Anya and I wanted to make a video on why I went vegan. I think this topic is really interesting even to people who aren't vegan. Like, I feel like people in my personal life always ask me why I chose to go vegan, and even before when I was just vegetarian, like what my reasoning is, because my reasoning was never for the animals. It was very much centered around the environment. So this video is split into 3 portions. We have health, the environment, and lastly animals. I don't want this video to be like super preachy, being like you should go vegan, like you're awful if you don't. That's kind of why I put animals at the end, because I feel like it's the most preachy topic. But honestly, I think the points that I hit on the animal section are actually really interesting and points that aren't commonly brought up. I'm gonna leave a few documentaries that I watched before going vegan in the description. These videos are so interesting to watch, and I think even if you don't choose to go vegan or vegetarian or whatever, that it's important to see the impact that your diet has on the environment, on the planet, even on yourself. So I'll leave those down below. I think they're really interesting. I'm not saying that you should go vegan. This is just my like story and my like reasoning for it. So yeah. Also, want to do a quick little shout out to my 11th grade US history teacher for showing us a bunch of videos on how industrialization has impacted the animal agriculture industry. I literally probably cried 4 to 5 times a week in that class. Like, I was constantly sobbing in that class. If you ever show me a video of like things happening to the animals or to the planet, I will break down crying. Quick shout out to him, love him. Those videos were great, genuinely. Okay, so my first little section is health. I'm gonna preface this by saying that I'm lactose intolerant, so really important for me to cut out dairy from my life, honestly. I've been vegetarian for 2.5 years before I went vegan, so like that was honestly pretty easy for me to do the switch between vegetarianism and veganism, because I had already been vegetarian for a while, and being lactose intolerant, a portion of the time I ate vegan because obviously I tried not to consume dairy. To be honest, so much of my like thought process was like, screw it, I'll endure the pain because like this tastes great. But it came to a point where I was like, you know what, I wonder what it would feel like to not be in constant pain. Because like genuinely, like the level of lactose intolerance for me was like pretty extreme. It was like really bad pain, like I just be like in stitches on my bed constantly. So it was like pretty important for me to cut out dairy, and like genuinely sometimes I'll like this is gross, like vomit if I have dairy. So like it was extremely important to my health to at least cut out dairy. And since I was already not eating meat before that, like the last leg of it was kind of just eggs, and I've always hated eggs, so like the switch for me was relatively easy, and it's not an easy thing to do in any way, shape, or form. My friend's actually trying it right now for Lent, and it's going difficult. It is a really difficult thing to change your diet, and I'm not saying by any means that it is easy. My specific circumstances kind of made it simple, but it is not an easy switch to do. Currently, I'm at the point where like the thought of having like cheese or milk or like real ice cream kind of makes me nauseous, just thinking about like the pain that I went through. So like I feel like if I tried to eat dairy again, like my body would reject it so heavily that like I kind of have no choice but to stay vegan for the rest of my life. At least like not eat dairy for the rest of my life. It's just how it works. Okay, so the reason why lactose intolerance is so common is because only babies, humans, are supposed to make the chemical or the protein lactase, which like breaks down the casein, I believe, in milk. Literally only babies are supposed to do it during the like breastfeeding section of our lives. So the fact that like nowadays humans continue to consume milk and dairy products post that period in your life when you're supposed to be like making big enough quantities of it causes lactose intolerance, because so many people's bodies just kind of quit. Your body's literally like not built to continue breaking down lactose through the use of lactase after you're a baby. Also, casein, which is a protein or a chemical found in milk, causes addictive properties, and that's why people are so obsessed with dairy products, is because it is literally addictive. It's like coffee or drugs, sugar, like those are all like addictive substances, and dairy is one of those things due to casein. So it like won't let you stop taking it, even though it's obviously a lesser addiction than, let's say, drugs or alcohol. It is still an addiction, and it makes it very difficult to quit that, and it makes you crave it at such large quantities. Like, I haven't had a dairy product in so long now that like I have no craving for those things. Like, you literally go through withdrawal symptoms if you just try to like kind of cut it out. Like, it's literally a drug, which is actually scary. Honestly, I always found it really scary that just like this thing that we eat that is so common in our society could like just kill us off. Like, heart attacks are the top global killer, I believe. It has such a high connection to the level of meat, especially red meat, that you eat, but there's even a linkage to other animal products. Vegetarianism can reduce your risk of cardiovascular failure by at least 33%. Like, there have been a bunch of different studies and they all say different things, but like the lowest level is 33%. I've seen some studies that like even say that it's linked to like 71%. I don't know. There have been a bunch of different studies, but like it is insane how much cutting out red meat can like help you. Even dairy and eggs hold the chemicals that allow cholesterol to travel through your blood easier. The direct impact to like cardiovascular illnesses that like meat and dairy and animal products have was just so like staggeringly high, and I don't know, I don't appreciate it. Also, respectfully, if any one of you guys comments down, oh, but the B12, no, like genuinely no. Basically every single person on this planet is deficient in B12 unless you're eating fruits and vegetables that you have grown in your own garden. You are deficient in B12. So like, yeah, I am, but so are you. On the other side of the screen, like, you are deficient in B12. Go take your own vitamins. But if you grow your own veggies, congrats to you. I hope you have a great amount of B12 in your system. And honestly, I wish I was you. Literally, if it's just like a heavily washed vegetable, like it is lower in B12 than the vegetables from your own garden. Like, grocery bought vegetables and meat are so low in B12 that it's not a significant difference between vegetarians / vegans and omnivores. Okay, the next section is the environment. This is my personal main point for why I went vegan. The environment has always had a chokehold on me. Literally since the day I was born, I was like, I will do anything for this planet. I will give up anything for this baby. Okay, maybe not anything, because we all make mistakes. We all do things. I'm not zero waste. I'm not saying that, but like, I will try my hardest to help this planet. And if I can do that simply by just like not eating certain things, you know I will. The environment is just so beautiful. Let's just like put in some like beautiful pictures of like the ocean, the land. Like, you're telling me you're gonna give up all this for a McDonald's Big Mac and some mayo? I'm so sorry, but like, why? Like, genuinely, I never understood that. The environment, it was such an important aspect in my life that I could not excuse the fact of eating animal products. Okay, we're gonna start off with the cute little statistic that feeding meat and dairy users uses 18 times more land than feeding a vegan. 18 times more land. That's a lot. That's a lot. Like, that's a big number. Also though, like, vegetarians use substantially less land than omnivores. So like, we love our vegetarians out there. I'm not trying to diss on you guys. I'm not trying to diss on anybody, but I'm especially not trying to diss on you guys. I really don't like the rhetoric that like vegetarians aren't doing enough for the environment, because yes you are. Yes you are. Anyone's doing enough for the environment. Not anyone, but like even people who eat meat and dairy can be helping the environment in completely different ways. Like, there are so many huge companies that are destroying the earth at such greater rates than just like the individual person ingesting a Five Guys burger. So there are a lot of different ways to help the environment, and you can still eat meat and dairy and help the environment. But like, personally, to me, I thought it was important enough, and I thought that like as a teenager, there's not a crazy large amount of things that I can do to help in other ways. So like, let me at least do this for now. Once I get into my career, I'll hit the rest of those targets. While animal agriculture is responsible for 51% of the CO2 in the atmosphere, there's also a lot of other things that like indirectly put CO2 into the atmosphere that aren't like technically linked to animal agriculture under that umbrella of the 51%. Soybeans. Soybean plantations are so huge, so big. They've caused so much deforestation. And guess what? I love tofu, and that's made of soy, but I'm not gonna say sorry about it, because most of these like soybean plantations and the soy coming off of those plantations is used to feed livestock. So it doesn't matter if you eat tofu or drink soy milk, like that's not a big enough contributor. It is directly the animals who are using this that is like why. So like, the sheer amount of like land mass used for holding animals is insane, and then like on top of that you add the amount of land mass being used to create feed for those animals. Those levels are like staggering. Your little almond milk and your soy milk is not going to destroy the planet. You don't have to switch to oat milk just for that. There are so many bigger contributors to this, and I feel like so much of the conversation around why like so many vegan swaps are bad is actually quite interestingly another conversation about why veganism is good, because veganism would cut down on the amount of soy plantations. I just thought that was like really interesting, and like, it's not something that's like brought up. People are just like, oh, soy is bad, it takes up so much space, but like you don't actually understand why the space is being taken up. 45% of the world's land is used simply by animal agriculture. 45%. That means half of the world is used just by that. I just, like, that number is astounding. Literally half of the world is just used to like make dairy and meat and stuff. Like, we could use that land for trees to purify air, which will in turn help with the climate. We could use that land for housing, because there's always a housing crisis. There is so many things that we could use that land for. It is literally half of the world. Like, it's crazy. It is just like, rereading the information that I have down, just it blows my mind all over again. Like, I've read this script like 50 times literally, and every time I read it I'm just like astounded all over again. We could use that land for making all of these plant-based proteins that all you meat eaters say doesn't exist. Like, there are so many things that we could be using that land for that isn't just deforesting it for the sake of animal slaughter. There's this huge narrative about how much water and CO2 and space is needed to make a bunch of vegan alternatives, but you don't need to use vegan alternatives. They still use a substantially smaller amount of CO2, of water, of landmass, because of all like the additional components in the animal agriculture world that aren't under the immediate umbrella of animal agriculture. 50% of grain worldwide is used to feed animal agriculture. So if we ever have a food shortage, or if we're trying to like blame things on overpopulation, that is just not actually a factual thing to stand by, because we could be using that 50% to actually like feed humans instead of feeding a bunch of animals for much smaller levels of human feed that can only be given to the rich. Because I can promise you that like poor people in underdeveloped countries do not have the means to pay for like all of this meat from these like high-end companies like Tyson. I find this fact specifically so like insane, so I'm gonna have to like read it off. 1 pound of hamburger meat is equivalent to 75 kilograms of CO2, aka using your car non-stop for 3 weeks. So why do we not see that as a problem? Why is this not something that is like talked about normally? How do we not see this whole crisis of like meat as a problem? Because it literally is a crisis. We have had a water crisis for years now. Clean water simply isn't even accessible. It's not even accessible in the United States. So think about other parts of the world. Just imagine how big that problem is there. Yet 1 pound of hamburger meat uses 3,000 liters of water. 3,000 liters of water. Which is how much water I drink in, I don't know, 1.5 to 3,000 days. I drink like 1 liter to 2 liters a day. So like it would genuinely take me 5 to 10 years to drink all of that water for 1 pound of hamburger meat. So why do we have a water crisis? Is it maybe perhaps because of the meat industry? Is it maybe perhaps? Maybe, perhaps, I don't know. To round it off, this part's just, it does give a little pushy, and that is animals. My main reason was never the animals, my main reason was always the environment. Through becoming a vegan, I feel like I've gained so much empathy for animal life, and I feel like genuinely the kindest thing that the animal industry does to an animal is killing them. There are so many worse factors, and when I found this out, the literal idea of any piece of meat made me so disgusted, because it's actually like terrifying what they do. And I watched a lot of documentaries on this literally like of just a few nights before I decided to like finally become vegan, and it's so disheartening. It's so scary to think that like humans can do this to other animals, and it's even weirder to think how many people don't know what happens to the food that they consume. Your diet has such a bigger impact on the world than you ever could have believed. And I really agree with the thought process that ignorance is not bliss. I think you really should understand your impact on the world, and it kind of makes you twice as guilty because you don't even know what you're doing and you're not trying to find out what you're doing. It is so easy to just search up like the effects that your diet has on the environment and on animals and all of this stuff. I find it scarily interesting how many people don't even care to look for it. Firstly, I was never a big meat person. Like I never really liked meat growing up. I do love a sausage. That was the thing for me. I was like, I'm never gonna have sausage or gyros again, and like this breaks my heart. But like it's really not that big of a deal. It meant so much more to me than just the foods that I get to eat. Having more years of life on this planet and making sure that it's a good place for future generations and for my own generation is just so much more important than being able to eat a sausage. Like I don't really see why that bit is so difficult. I am honestly like a huge crier. Like it is so easy to make me cry. Like the smallest things will put me off. So anything that has to do with welfare, human rights, animal rights just makes me bawl immediately. So the documentary is linked below. Bawl to. So honestly, the addition of seeing how those animals were being treated, really connecting that to my huge like passion for the environment before, just made me be like, okay, I have to do this, like I have to go vegan. I truly think that it's the right thing for me to do. I don't try to like yell at other people or like demean them for eating meat or whatever, but I just think that for me, I know that that's the right thing for me to do. I think the thing that hit home for me the most, especially as a woman, is the fact that for a cow to be able to produce milk, they have to be in a state of pregnancy, which is very, very difficult on the body. It is like an extremely difficult process, and you're supposed to be given so much time for recovery, but these cows are just not given that recovery time. They're basically in a constant state of pregnancy. Basically, dairy farms will either inject hormones or actually will, oh god, I never thought I would say this word on camera before, but rape the cows to get them in the state of pregnancy, which is so unethical. Like, I understand that it's not a human, but I just don't see how we can ever believe that to be an okay thing to do to any species, anything in the world. The process of pregnancy is, I mean, I've never been through it, but like, I don't know, I'm a woman, I felt other pain. Like, it is extremely painful and extremely unhealthy to be constantly in that state of having that amount of hormones just like coursing through you in that way. It's really not healthy for you, and I truly empathize with anyone out there who's had to give birth, because that is extremely powerful, and just the fact that these cows have to go through that constantly is insane. This milk that these cows produce for us was never even meant to be for us. The milk that cows produce is supposed to be for their own calves, for their own children, just like human milk is made for human children. And just like human milk, it's supposed to be given to the baby for a certain amount of time to help them grow. So you're basically just ingesting like baby cow growth serum. Like, humans aren't supposed to grow at the same levels as cows, so you're ingesting things that are like genuinely harmful to your being. Popping back into the health section for a second, because we don't grow at the same intense level as cows. Cows walk, I don't know if it's in the first few hours or the first few like days of their life, whereas human babies take upwards of like 9 months to walk for the first time. This is not normal, and human babies are not that huge and do not grow to that level. It doesn't make sense to be taking their growth serum ourselves. And also, baby cows are like ripped from their mothers within the first 24 hours of their life, and postpartum depression is real for cows too. It's real for a lot of species out there, and it's so sad to think of like the emotions that these cows must be going through, because they do have emotions. They're animals. They aren't just like us, but they, you know, there are similarities between us and cows, and just to think that you're inflicting that on someone else is so crazy to me. Like, once again, I'm just thinking about like the big corporations out here who like do this stuff, and like who thought of this stuff. That's what mesmerizes me so much. Like, the individual person does not have that big of an impact, and I'm just stating this information for you guys to be more educated. Like, I don't care if you guys become vegan forever, and I don't think basically any of you guys will, but I think it's important to know, because ignorance is simply not bliss. You should know what you're doing. Also, in the chicken industry, male chicks are killed off because obviously they cannot produce eggs, so they are not useful in that situation. They have no benefits to these corporations by being alive. If you're a man born in the world of the dairy industry, the egg industry, you basically just become fertilizer. And if you're a woman in that industry, you are subjected to the most horrific pains and moments ever. This sounds so weird, but like, putting myself in the shoes of like a cow undergoing that it's really scary. I mean, it sounds so stupid, like putting yourself in the shoes of a cow. It sounds stupid, but like, if you think about it, it's crazy. But in conclusion, it is all up to you. I just wanted to give you guys the facts out there. These are things that changed my mind, and these are things that, like, personally to me made an impact. Everybody is completely different. Everyone's story of veganism is completely different. I chose this life for myself. Everyone else can have a different thing. Like, in my family, I'm the only vegan. I only know one other vegan in my life. I know 2 vegetarians. One of my friends is going vegan for Lent. I just feel like, personally, for me, the environment is too big of a factor for me to continue ingesting things that are just for the sake of pleasure. And honestly, the health side really did side with me. There are so many reasons not to go vegan or vegetarian. My aunt used to be vegetarian and she had to stop because iron levels, and that is completely okay. Like, so many people can't do it because of health reasons. Honestly, I just want everyone's main takeaway from this to just be like information, just to know that, like, you're informed of these things, and I really don't want to be pushy. And thank you guys so much for watching this. Please don't take it as a diss on meat eaters. That's not what I'm trying to do. But with that, I'll see you guys next week. Bye bye.